In this video, we're going to look at some tips and tricks for your car lab. Its official title is Descriptive Stats for Quantitative Data, but I call it the car lab because that's what we're looking at. We are comparing the driving range with the price of hybrid and plug-in vehicles. Pretty popular over the past couple of years, especially when we had the surge in gas prices about 5 or 6 years ago now. But as you can see from your table, they are not cheap. Our first table is organized by price. So my price is going from smallest to greatest, and you can see it really gets up there. And then over in my last column is the driving range. So the Honda Insight, for example, will cost you little over $18,000, and on one, we'll say quote-unquote tank of gas, right, because we are not really using gas completely for the hybrids, is 466 miles. But if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the GMC 1500 Sierra costs more, but you're also going to go a lot further on one tank. And so we want to see, what's the most bang for our buck here. Our first table is organized by price, so my price is going from my lowest price to my highest price, with its corresponding driving range, where my second table is looking at the driving range is going from least to greatest, and then the corresponding range over here. So over in the second table, I probably really want to look at driving range first and then go back to the price. So we got two different tables, and it's for two different reasons. In part one, we are going to look at the price as my input data. That's what I'm going to use to organize. So I'm going to go to table 1 and look at these prices and say, all right, I'm going to use these as my bins, as my class boundaries, as my class limits. I'm going to count up how many fall in those bins. I'm not really concerned about driving range right now. I'm looking solely at price. So my smallest price is $18,350. The highest was just over 112, well, actually closer to 113,000. And the PowerPoints will tell you that you want to start with the lowest number and then come up with a class width. I actually like to start with a number that's a little bit easier to add and subtract with. So I'm going to start with 18,000. I'm going to scroll down to part 1, and it says make a frequency table with at least 6 bins, but no more than 10, which is how many lines you have here. And I want my price as my data. So I'm going to start with 18,000, and I need to get up so that my last price of 112,750 falls in my last bin. And I am going to use a class width of 12,000. Now I know this works. Other ones work, but what you do is just kind of play with it. You say, well, I want to go by 10s, I want to go by 20s, I want to go, and then you see if that organizes the data in a way that it makes it more manageable. So if I start with 18,000, you add the class width down those lower class limits, so that would make this 30,000, 42,000, 54, 66, because I'm adding 12, 78, 90, right? And then I got 102, and oops, and my last one will be 114, so I'm not going to wind up needing that. And then you scoot back up to the top and say, all right, well, if this starts at 18,000 and the next one starts at 30,000, my first one has to stop at 29,999, right? Because I can't put 30,000, because then which bin would you fall in, the first or the second? So you got to stop a little bit beforehand. If the next one starts at 42,000, this has to be 41. Ooh, I forgot my little dash. 41,999, right? And so you work your way down the list. And what will happen is when you get to this second to last one, this would have to stop at 113,999. Well, I don't have any that are even that high, right? So I don't need this last bit. So I can just go delete, right? And it would fill in all of these. I'm just going to do the first 3 just to keep the length of the video down. Now, you could do other ones. I've seen people do 15,000. I've seen, I want to say 20,000. It kind of depends on where you start with your number. But there are many, many, many ways to set up this frequency table and be, quote unquote right? There's not a hard and fast way that this needs to be done. So my first bin is 18,000 to 29.99, and I'm going to go up to my chart where it's organized by data and count up. All right, so how many are between there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Scrolly back down. I have 12 that costs that much. Now I'm going from 30,000 to 41,999. So one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Okay. And I'll do one more, 42 to 53,999. 1, 2, 3, I think that's it, right? Looks like 3. Okay, so counting up the data and putting them in the bins is a little annoying, but it's not too terrible. Just real quickly, I'm going to copy these and put them in these first 3. And to find the relative frequency, all you do is say, well, I'm going to take how many I have here, which was 12, divide it by however many I have. I don't remember how many there were. I'm going to pretend there were 40. I really don't remember, so don't use that number. Count them. And then change it to a percent. But I'm not going to do that in here. I'm going to do all of that over in Excel because Excel will do it for me. I'm going to copy and paste these 3, right? Highlight them, Control C or use copy, and then go over to Excel and paste them in there. You may have to clean this up a little bit. There we go. Then delete one of the boundaries. I like to label things using the lower class limits, but you can certainly use the upper class limits. You can use class boundaries. You can use class midpoints. I mean, there's whatever you want to use. And I am going to use Excel to make both the frequency histogram and the relative frequency polygon. And it's not nearly as scary as it sounds. To make the histogram, super easy. Highlight just the frequencies. So 12, 9, and 3. You'll have more because you're going to complete your chart. Go up to Insert, Column, the first one. Almost perfect, right out the chart, right? So here's my first bin, 18,000, that's a 12, and then that's a 9, and that's a 3. Does everything except not technically a histogram, right? Because these bars are not touching. I don't care so much about that. What I do care about that is that this says 1, 2, 3 and not 18,000, 30,000, 42,000. So I want to fix that. Right click on your chart and the little grabbers in the corner and then go down to Select Data. This says 1, 2, 3 on the horizontal. I don't want it to say that. I want it to say 18,000, 30,000, 42,000. So click Edit. And then come over here and just highlight that. And you'll see it pop up. Oh, it already did it for me. Hit OK. And OK. Done. Lovely thing. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about any of that other stuff. Now, if it bothers you that it's not a histogram and it's a bar graph, you can right-click on this again. Go to Format Data Series. And close the gap. It will squeeze all those guys together. Of course, now it looks like a giant blob. So you can either leave a tiny itty bitty gap, or you can go to border color and say solid line and change the color so that you can see the difference. Lovely, right? Isn't this great? And then you can copy and paste this over. So I like to use my snipping tool. I don't care what you use. Boop. And scoot. And then you can make them smaller this way too, and it'll fit in. Now, it's not labeled, which is a no-no technically, and this says Series 1. These things are things that you can play with, but I know that we're using Excel in a very short period of time, and I am not around to help you with this, so this is fine. If you were doing this on a test, or you were needing to do this for a report, this should technically say something like prices of hybrid vehicles up at the chart where and say, you know, what type of data it is that you're looking at. While this is highlighted, I'm going to scoot this out of the way, and I'm going to talk about the line graph now, the frequency polygon. Now, it's a relative frequency polygon, so I need some percents, but I am lazy and I don't want to do it. So I'm going to click on C1, right? C, and then line 1, that's next to the 12. And I'm going to use Excel to calculate these percents for me. I want the number in this box to be equal to the percent that I get when I divide 12 by however many numbers I have on the list. I'm going to pretend it's 40 because I can't remember. So I'm going to say equal to 12 divided by 40. Got to put the equal. And when you hit enter, bang, does it for you. Not a percent yet though, right? Click on it again. Go up to number, hit percent. Done. And I'm going to do the same thing with 9. So fantastic. Now I want a line chart, so I am going to highlight, well, let me do this last one right here, since I was doing 3 for the other one. I'm going to highlight these, because I want percents this time. Go up to insert, now I'm going to do line. I'm going to pick this one. Again, we're going to have a little bit of a star here, because technically a line polygon, a frequency polygon, will connect this first step down to here and the last one down to here. Excel won't do that for me, and I'm okay with that. You don't have to worry about getting these to cooperate with you. I got the percents. Again, these are not the correct horizontal axis, so right click on the chart, go select data, edit, pick your range, okay, and you're done again. And this one you don't even have to mess with. And then you just bring it right over. Fantastic, right? So those are your how you would do the 2 charts for part 1. Now part 2, you're kind of doing the same thing, but now you're using highway mileage as data. Let's pretend price is no object, right? So I can spend however much I want. I'm concerned about getting the best mileage. I go to my chart 2 because that's organized by how many miles I will get per tank, or charge up, or whatever you want to say. So this is my driving range, and I'm looking at these numbers in here from 100 to 900. So this one we probably could go by hundreds, because I want to have 10 bins again, right? So I could probably say from, well, I started at 100, so we don't need a 0. Let's go 100. And then this would be 200, 300, 400, right? And if the second one starts at 200, I need to stop this one at 199. And if the next one starts at 300, this has to be 299. And there's, again, many different ways that you can figure this out. Let's count up how many I have in my 100, 200, 300 range. I only have 1 in the 1. Well, that was a fast count, right? None in the 2, and 2 in the 3. So that was fast. Let's scroll back down here. This is a 1, 0, 2. Do the same thing. Copy and paste it over. I'm going to go to the next sheet. Get rid of one of them. I'm going to get rid of the lower, because that's what I like to do. But you can use the upper. And we're going to do 2 charts over here for this set of data. Frequency histogram again, because that's the big one, right? That's the one you see in stats all the time. And a pie chart. Okay, well now pie chart we haven't done yet. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to highlight just the counts. And then I'm going to go up to insert again. Pie. Pick your favorite. That's officially my favorite. And it does it for you, right? If you hover over, it says the green is number 3, which is this one right here. And it tells you the percentage when you highlight it. Now maybe you want to see the percents. I also like to see the percent, so that's a lot better. I like that. Now, it gives you a title, so you can say something like data by mileage, or whatever. What I don't like is that it says 1, 2, 3 for 100, and I wanted to say 100, 200, 300. So I'm going to click on the chart, right click, select data, and let's edit this to say 123. Oh, so much better. And that's how you make your charts. Okay, now for the big one. The big one is the scatter plot. To do a scatter plot in the calculator or to do by hand is a big pain. Excel is not as bad. It's probably the least of the three evils, but you're probably going to have to manipulate your scale a little bit so that you're not looking at a big blob of dots. To create the scatter plot, you have a set of points that you're going to graph. Along the horizontal is the highway mileage, and then we're going to go up to the price. So if you remember from your algebra days, this is your XY coordinate. So we're going to go over to the X for the highway mileage, and then we're going to go up to the price. We can use either table to grab our data. Let's see, let's go up to, I'll just use this one. I'm going to highlight all of this. Control C, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to pick all of column A and B, hit Control V. It's going to yell at me, just say that's okay, and that way all the data will come over. Now, oh, I have 34. My 40 was a good guess. Now, I have this a little bit backwards, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight A and hit Control C, and then over here, I'm going to paste it over there, and then I'm going to delete this. That's what I want. Okay, now for the big part. I want to make a scatter plot. I need to highlight all of this, go up to Insert, Scatter, and just the dots. You don't want to connect anything. And actually, that looks pretty darn good, just the way that it is. So if it was hard to see where the dots are, I would change it. But I think that that's pretty good the way it is. If it's not cooperating and it's not the way that you want it, you can right click and hit select data, and then you can change these scales right in here. But it looks like it's going to do it for you, so I think that you'll probably be okay. And there's your scatter plot, and that's all you have to do. Now imagine having to plot all these little points by hand. It's terrible. You have a couple of different layouts that you can pick from up here as well. Kind of moves it around a little bit. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Looks like the first one was the way to go. If you don't like the colors, you don't like blue, you want red, you want green, you can change it to be whatever you want. I don't care about that. And then just again, stick it over into your chart, your lab, right here, and then see if there's any correlation. In the last part, in the last section, you have to make a recommendation. Now, this recommendation that you're going to put in your editorial review does not need to be like an official paper. We're talking about a couple of sentences here. What car would you pick and why? Maybe you have a Prius and you love the Prius. Prius is pretty popular. I've been seeing a lot of Nissan Leafs around lately, and they look gorgeous, but I think that was the one that was $112,000. No, I don't remember. I remember looking it up and going, oh my gosh. Where is it? I can't even find it now. It's not cheap, right? These things are not cheap. Oh, the Lexus was $112,000. The Leaf was $28,000. I still don't want to pay that much for a car. So you go, well, you know, but it only gets 100, but it's completely plug-in. There's no gas. So maybe the Prius down here really is the best way to go because you get a really far driving range. It's 32,000, but you know, considering you're going 900 something miles, maybe that's pretty good. So what would you pick and why? Short, couple of sentences, does not, I don't need like MLA format, anything like that. Just what would you pick? Save it, submit it, and then you're all good to go. And that's how you do your car lab.